My best friend Marlon Rattel recently released a video called 5 Popular Exercises You Should Replace for Better Muscle Growth. In this video, he gives you 5 popular exercises, obviously, and gives you exercises you should do instead for better muscle growth. And because I disagree with Marlon on a lot of things, I figured you guys would want to see my reaction to this. If you don't know who I am, my name is Martin Rios. I have a Bachelor of Science in Exercise Science. And because I'm here to make fitness great again, I'll be reacting to Marlon Rattel's video from an athletic and functional perspective. Before I get into the video, because there's so much trash fitness advice online and it's so hard to get started on a fitness journey, I want to give you the most incredible free gift ever. If you sign up for a free trial of my Aesthetic Athlete Academy, not only will you be able to try out the community, but you'll get a free athletic bodybuilding workout and a free consultation call with me. Be sure to claim your free gifts.
Deadlifts. Deadlifts aren't terrible. It's a great exercise.
And on raw stimulus, deadlifts are awesome, but it's a lot of fatigue.
It's a lot of fatigue. For muscle growth, which is what this whole video is about, range of motion matters.
Absolutely.
And the deadlift is not a very high range of motion exercise.
Yeah.
The deficit deadlift is.
So the first exercise Marlon tells you to replace is the deadlift for deficit deadlifts, and I think this is a pretty stupid swap. I do respect that he wasn't absolute saying that the deadlift is terrible and that you always have to replace the deadlift, but I just don't think the deficit deadlift is a great exercise, and I don't think it's a great replacement for the deadlift. Marlon complains about the fatigue of a deadlift, but that's because you're lifting a lot of weight and you're using a lot of muscles. Fatigue is not necessarily a bad thing. It's also not a good thing, especially if you're just chasing fatigue for the sake of chasing fatigue, but it's not a bad thing as long as you're using it correctly and you're getting a lot out of the fatigue. It's kind of like saying a sprint is bad because it causes a lot of fatigue. The reason why it causes fatigue is because you're exerting a lot of effort, and the same thing applies to the deadlift.
It's probably better to extend the range of motion. That means letting your back round for higher rep sets like you're seeing in some of these demos. So do we recommend every time replacing deadlifts with deficit deadlifts? No, and we won't make any recommendations here that are every time. But if you want growth and you've been deadlifting a while, and you want to increase your results, improve your stimulus to fatigue ratio, target the muscles of the back and the legs better, the deficit deadlift checks a lot of boxes, which is why we recommend really giving some thought to it.
I think the deficit deadlift is a stupid replacement for the deadlift because you won't be able to load this exercise up, which is kind of the whole point of doing a deadlift. No one's range of motion deeper, but Marlon recommends rounding your back, and you're not going to be able to load this exercise up safely. And even from my hypertrophy perspective, I'd still go for a standard barbell deadlift. I mean, even Mr. Olympia C-Bum deadlifts frequently. Although I wouldn't say the deadlift targets a specific muscle super well, you're able to lift so much weight and it does a great job hitting the posterior chain. And when combining the deadlift with other great leg exercises and other great back exercises, it's a fantastic addition to any hypertrophy program or athletic program.
So you might consider replacing your cable tricep pushdowns with easy bar, behind the neck, overhead tricep extensions. The number one reason why we're recommending this replacement as an idea you could have, the pushdown occupies this cultural space in lifting as the tricep exercise. And some people are doing it just because of a lack of creativity or knowledge that other exercises.
The next replacement that Marlon recommends is to replace the tricep pushdown with an easy bar overhead extension. I don't really like this replacement because it's not a like for like switch. The tricep pushdown has your elbows in a more neutral position, and of course the overhead easy bar extension has your elbows overhead. Marlon claims that people use the tricep pushdown due to a lack of creativity and knowledge. I guess that explains why he creates all these dumbass exercises. Being creative is not a bad thing, but also being basic and using the fundamentals is definitely not a bad thing, and I'd argue you'd probably see better results doing that.
The overhead tricep easy extension is a great exercise. Another thing about it is it allows you to engage the long head of your triceps and get a massive stretch.
Marlon claims that this exercise will allow you to hit the long head of the triceps and get it on more of a stretch. I don't know if he misspoke, but a tricep pushdown will also hit the long head, and the way he's performing this exercise might not be ideal for a long head tricep activation, and he actually worsens the stretch at the bottom. Because the long head of the tricep crosses the shoulder joint, it actually is affected by the shoulder position.
And remember, for a good overhead easy extension, keep your elbows pointed forward and in, and touch the very back of your neck while your elbows jut out this way. You don't have to push your elbows back up. You can, but if you push your elbows forward as the bar comes down instead of trying to ratchet them up, you're actually going to get the biggest stretch of the tricep under the most tension.
The long head of the tricep is better isolated when the elbows are in a fixed position, and in this exercise the elbows are moving all over the place, and because they allow the elbows to move down when performing this exercise, it actually puts the long head of the triceps on less of a stretch. When it comes to my opinion on this exercise, I just think there are better alternatives, with my favorite being an overhead cable row rope extension while keeping the elbows in a fixed position. This will help engage the long head of the triceps more than the elbows moving around, and it has a better resistance profile with it having good tension at the lockout, and you don't have to put your cervical spine in this awkward position.
One arm rows are an awesome exercise. The one arm row is a real go-to exercise for back, and a lot of people don't know that you can do 2 arm rows and just same exercise, except not perched on a bench, just standing there freestyle, and then reaching down and coming back up with 2 arms at a time. The biggest advantage for 2 arm rows is that you do functionally the same amount of work twice as fast. And then it's really like a full set and then rest and then a full set.
Yeah. So it's tough.
It's just doubling the amount of time you spend at the gym. The 2-arm dumbbell row is awesome, especially if you get a real deep stretch.
If you've been watching my recent videos, you know that this switch is gonna piss me off. Now, I do like how he said that the 1-arm row is not a bad exercise, but for all the education that Marlon has had, he doesn't seem to understand the benefits of doing exercises unilaterally. Marlon claims that rowing with 2 arms is functionally the same amount of work, but you're doing it twice as fast because you don't have to do 2 separate sets, so 1 arm and then doing the other arm. I would make the claim that it's 100% not functionally the same. Because humans are asymmetrically built, in particular our right diaphragm is much stronger and larger than our left diaphragm, our bodies are biased towards the right side. So doing a bilateral row variation will lead to the right side of the body more than likely doing most of the work. A unilateral row also more closely replicates normal human movement, since humans rarely have both sides of the body doing the same thing at the exact same time, and it allows for natural rotation of the torso as you're doing this exercise. Now, I don't think a 2-arm row is a bad exercise, especially if you don't perform it like a retard and do a ridiculous amount of stretch, but if I had to pick between these two, I would go with a single arm row, as it will help with my movement and it will help balance out my body.
For overall leg size and leg strength, weightlifters don't use front squats. They use back squats, otherwise known as high bar squats, otherwise known as bodybuilding squats, same movement. And so when we see folks using front squats for hypertrophy, we're like, I get it. It's a fine movement, but there are some downsides.
So the next exercise Marlon recommends you replace is the front squat, and some of you may be surprised, but purely from a hypertrophy perspective, I can kind of get where he's coming from. I think the front squat is a great exercise, and naturally I prefer a Zerker squat just because it's a little bit more comfortable, but both of these are front-loaded squats. But the issue with the front squat from a hypertrophy perspective is it's just not as loadable as a barbell squat. Now when it comes to athletes, I highly recommend the front squat or a Zerker squat, because when it comes to mastering the squat movement, you want to make sure that you're doing a variety of different exercises. But if I'm trying to build my legs, I'll lean more towards a barbell squat. And if you want to hit the quads more, you can just elevate the heels. I will admit that sometimes for my athletic bodybuilding programs, I will program front squats and circuit squats, but that's just to add in some variety and make the workouts more fun.
You want big delts, comma, you're an animal, barely restrained from wilderness impulses. You grab 2 giant dumbbells. What do you start doing? You start swinging them around, 1 arm at a time.
Or you could replace that with a good exercise.
What?
Like the Super ROM lateral raise.
What is the Super ROM getting me that the swinging 1 arm at a time front raise isn't?
So you could just take your palms and do this thing here and just, you're gonna hit a lot more lateral delt, but we can one-up that and take it out to the side and one-up that and do a Super ROM where you're getting a huge eccentric on the way down.
Can you do the front raise? Yes. Can you do 10 other delta exercises? Yes. But we picked the Super ROM lateral raise to be a real juxtaposition to this exercise. Like, it does everything right this thing does wrong.
And the last exercise Marlon recommends you replace are front raises, which I agree with, but the replacement is so dumb that I want to smash my head on a cash register. For most gym goers, front raises are completely unnecessary because the front delts are hit very well in pressing exercises, and the front delts are usually very well developed on most people. But replacing this exercise with super range of motion lateral raises makes no sense. First of all, I don't understand why you wouldn't switch a front delt exercise with an exercise that hits the front delts well. And second, super range of motion lateral raises for hypertrophy is just such a dumb exercise. Just because a muscle is going through a larger range of motion doesn't mean it's working harder. The side delts are the prime mover of shoulder abduction from 15 to 90 degrees. Past 90 degrees, the prime mover shifts to the serratus anterior and the upper traps. So if you're doing a lateral raise to try and build your side delts, it's better to stick to this 15 to 90 degrees and not go all the way up like this. When it comes to my replacement for front raises, I would do an overhead press. The vertical push is a foundational human movement, so we want to make sure that we're hitting this in our routines. And it does a great job hitting the front delts, but we're not isolating it for no reason. And it hits the triceps and the side delts well too. And when programming overhead presses, make sure that you're programming a variety of different variations. So barbell, dumbbell, single arm, and even add in some landmine incline pressing from time to time. And those are my thoughts on Marlon Israetel's exercise replacements. Don't forget to claim your free gifts, subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed, and I recently made a video going over why bodybuilders are so stiff, which you should check out.